All right, perfect. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Lal, and this is going to be the Fulton State Expedited Accusation Calendar. This is a calendar in which individuals who were recently arrested on certain misdemeanor charges were then booked at the Fulton County Jail. Thereupon, the prosecutor, which is the Fulton County Solicitor General's office, has already formally accused the defendants with the misdemeanor charges. Hence, the case would be with the State Court of Fulton County, and this would be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer. If you are an individual charged with a misdemeanor offense or offenses, please remember your rights. The first one is the right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, we will have a public defense attorney who is available to represent you today, or we may appoint a conflict defense attorney to represent you as soon as one is available. So we're going to begin in Courtroom 2, and who do we have, please?
Your Honor, if we could pause for a minute. This is Albert Hopkins from the Solicitor General's office. We're still, our two prosecutors who will be handling the calendar today are still waiting in the waiting room.
Okay, Ms. Lewis?
No, I don't have nobody in the waiting room right at this time, Mr. Hopkins. Are they on the right link?
Be Ian Walker and Courtney Sellette.
Well, they're not in my waiting room at this time, sir.
Mr. Hopkins, if you could forward the link that you used to connect to this to them and just make sure they're on the correct link.
I sent it to them earlier, Your Honor. The same one. I was on the email as well.
Okay, tell them to, if you have that text, if you can text them, tell them to leave the Zoom and reconnect.
I will do that. 1 second.
All right, and while we're waiting for our prosecutors, Courtroom 2, I'm sorry, who do we have in Courtroom 2?
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, sir.
We have position number 11, Ms. James, Stacey James, position number 11.
Got it. Okay. Ms. James will be with you very shortly as soon as our prosecutors join us on the Zoom conference. I'd just like to remind you that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you, and you have a right to counsel. Your attorney is going to be Mr. Derek Howard. Do you see Mr. Howard on the screen?
Yes.
All right, very good. Just Mr. Hopkins, any progress?
Judge, I just sent it to them again. They're coming in.
Okay. And you said it was Miss Sellette and who?
Ian Walker, Your Honor.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'm still waiting for them to pop up.
This is very odd. This has never happened before. Mr.
One is coming on now.
Okay.
They apparently got sent another link at one point today, Your Honor, and that link apparently did not pan out, so they were trying to use that one. But
No problem. No problem. Miss Sellette, can you hear us?
Yes, Your Honor. My apologies. I had the wrong link. I'm sorry.
No worries. Mr. Hopkins has apologized on your behalf and has agreed to certain signature bonds as a forgiveness. Yeah.
I'd like to have that taken, stricken from the record, please.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Okay. All right.
Sounds good to us. The signature bonds are.
All right. We are going to address position number 11. Ms. Sellette, would that be your case?
No, Your Honor, I don't believe so.
All right. Who was the other prosecutor we're waiting on?
Walker, I believe. Ian
Oh, Mr. Walker, yes.
All right, Mr. Walker, Your Honor, appears to have also been sent a second link by court staff, and it is not a functioning link. So I just sent him, I had sent him the correct link as well. So he's coming on now.
Should have been the same email. I know we got quite a few emails,
Should have
but
been.
should have been the same one.
It was.
All right, see a few more individuals have joined us in Courtroom Two. Let me just go ahead and make a quick announcement. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Lal, and this is going to be the Expedited Accusation Calendar. This is a calendar in which individuals have been charged and accused of misdemeanor offenses. So this will be your initial appearance before a state judicial officer. I would like you to remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford one, we will appoint a counsel from the Public Defender's Office to represent you. If you qualify for the services of a conflict attorney, one will be appointed shortly, but it won't be today. Mr. Walker, as soon as there you are. Welcome, welcome, sir.
I'm sorry, Judge. Apparently I had the wrong link, but I'm here now. I'm ready.
Not a problem. Okay. So we are going to commence with position number 11. I believe that's your case, Stacey James.
Yes, Your Honor. The defendant is charged with 1 count of battery, substantial physical harm. The state is asking for a $4,000 surety bond, a stay away from the incident location, which is One Stop Convenience Store. That address is 1126 Euclid Avenue. No further contact with the victim, Brittany McCreary. I'm sure you've reviewed the warrant on this case, but essentially this was a fight between 2 co-workers. The defendant in this case actually called her sister to the incident location, and they actually jumped the victim. Her sister actually was charged with aggravated assault, and that's an open case with our DA's office. I do have that case number, 22 CP 206910. In that case, her sister was given a $16,000 surety bond. With that being said, I think essentially this probably will end up getting transferred since she is her sister's co-defendant and it's the same victim, the same incident. But the state feels as though a $4,000 surety bond with the previously mentioned conditions are more than reasonable based upon the circumstances.
All right,
And
thank
she
you,
does
Mr.
have
Walker.
a 28. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
She does have a 2018 simple assault conviction out of Clayton as far as her history.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Roberts, could you confirm her history, please?
That's correct. Only one prior from Clayton County from 2018 for simple assault and willful obstruction, and that was a no-low plea, and nothing further to add.
Thank you. And Ms. Stacey James, as Mr. Walker has indicated, your case number is 22 CR 002631D, in which you have been accused of battery causing substantial physical harm. Your incident date is January 11th, 2022, and your counsel is going to be Mr. Derek Howard. Mr. Howard, you've heard Mr. Walker's recitation. I'm going to grant a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services. She is to stay away from the location. She's not allowed to return there. So I don't know if she's still employed at that particular convenience store, but she cannot return to 1125 Euclid Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia. She's to have no further contact with Brittany McCreary, and her next court date will be sent to her at her current mailing address. Do we have a good mailing address on Miss James?
Which address do you have, Your Honor? Is it the Crabtree Court?
Let me confirm, please. I've just switched screens to that one. It is the, yes, I do. Is that a good address?
Yes, Judge.
All right. Miss James, you are going to be reporting to pretrial services once a month, and you have to stay away from the convenience store and location and have no further contact with Brittany McCreary. You have to stay 200 yards away from her. Do not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. And you're not to consume any illegal drugs and no weapons and no firearms. Your next court date will be sent to you at your Crabtree Court address. And if you fail to appear, we will have to issue a bench warrant for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes.
Thank you. You're free to go. All right. Next case, officer.
Next, we have position number 12, Ms. Karschner. Position number 12.
Thank you. We have Amy Marie Karschner charged with battery, domestic violence from a April 29th, 2022 incident. Ms. Karschner, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Derek Howard. Ms. Roberts, any priors?
2 cycles. Last arrest was in 2004 for obstruction and battery out of Cobb County. That case was dismissed. And the first arrest was from 93 for obstruction.
All right, thank you.
And
That's good, thank you. Mr. Walker, any recommendation? For
Yes,
bond?
Your Honor. The state is recommending a $2,000 surety bond with no further contact with the victim, whose name is Benjamin Haygood. Stay away from the incident location, 202 Harbor Point in Sandy Springs, Georgia. Essentially, this case is about a girlfriend who was upset with her boyfriend about his Tinder use, if you will. The state is adamantly opposed to a signature bond in this case because we do have contact with the victim, Mr. Haygood. He is on the line, and the defendant's family has already begun to contact him and threaten him and telling him if he knows what's good for him, he'll drop these charges. So, of course, victim intimidation, improper influence of the witness is always a concern that the state has when it comes to these type of cases, specifically domestic violence cases. And with that being said, I would like the victim to have an opportunity to speak if he would like to do so.
All right. Mr. Haygood, I do see you on the screen. Would you like to address the court?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. So, unfortunate incident, she was your girlfriend?
Yes, she was my partner.
All right. And is there a particular reason as to why I should well, let me put it a different way. Are you concerned about her being anywhere near you?
I am.
Could you elaborate?
This has been going on since about 2 weeks into our relationship. We've been together for 2 years. Her substance abuse is a big problem. I didn't know.
Objection, Judge. I would object to relevance at this stage. If he desires contact or not contact, I think is relevant. But these allegations that he's starting to make will be more appropriate for a later proceeding. We'd ask that he be limited to whether he wants contact or not.
I would like to respond and say that the defendant's testimony goes to the overall likelihood that the defendant may reoffend, the reasons why he may be intimidated, and why his safety is a concern. And if drug use is one of those reasons, it's one of those reasons, Your Honor.
A no contact order would address any of that, Judge. So
I agree.
mean, we don't have an issue with that.
I agree with you, Mr. Howard. The objection is overruled. Mr. Benjamin, if you could briefly summarize as to why you believe she would be a threat to you, I would appreciate it.
I believe that she will be a threat to me because of the fact that every time I've tried to get away from her, she would not leave me alone. Even, blocking her on things, she would still contact me other ways. And also myself, I'm in recovery. I'm having to recover from the trauma that this has caused for me. And I wish the best for Amy. I really want her to get help with her drinking and her anger.
All right. Thank you.
I also sent I also sent video footage to Miss Christie of the attack. So there is video footage, and it wasn't mentioned that she was arrested earlier. Well, it was either the end of last year or earlier this year for fleeing and eluding, and she is on misdemeanor probation already.
Objection, Judge. It's not in her criminal history. If she were arrested, GCIC would reflect that.
All right. And well, actually, let me just move on to one other point. Mr. Haygood, does she still reside at the Sandy Springs location?
So currently, I think that she is going to be moving, according to her father. I was not allowed to gather all of my belongings. Her parents were throwing things on the floor and threatening me, so I wasn't allowed to grab all my belongings. I'm asking to be granted access to the apartment to gather the rest of my belongings. And because I legally reside there, I was going to ask if I could possibly have maybe 7 days at the residence as I'm waiting to get into treatment for trauma.
How long have you been living there?
2 years. It's the address on my license as well.
All right, thank you.
And Your Honor, briefly, that's one of the concerns that the state has had. I don't know if Mr. Haygood wants to go into it, but the defendant's parents have contacted him and threatened him already. So that is a concern that we have as far as the safety and witness intimidation of the victim.
I'll take
I
that
wanted
into
to say also
consideration.
that I would like to.
Just
oh, sorry.
1 second, just 1 second.
Sorry.
I'll take that into consideration. Yes, Mr. Haygood.
I would like if it could be granted also to go through getting a protection order against anyone involved with her, like as in her family.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Haygood, if you seek a protective order with regards to Ms. Karschner, as well as members of a family whom you believe are a threat to you, you shall file a protective order petition with the Superior Court of Fulton County. It's called the Safe Family or Family Division. And it's a very easy process. And once you do so, they will take you through the rest of the steps. Okay?
Thank you so much, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Mr. Howard?
Yes, Judge. Ms. Karschner is 29 years old. She is a lifelong Georgia resident. She does have family here in the metro Atlanta area that she's close to. Judge, well, she worked up until about 6 months ago as a dog, an Atlanta dog trainer, where she was responsible for boarding the dogs, but she's currently looking for work. But Judge, the state is, or Mr. Haygood and the state have sort of indicated that he has been trying to get away from her and she's keeping him. I will note that the address that they're living at is her address. He acknowledges he's been living there for 2 years. So clearly he hasn't been trying to get away from her. His parents are a part of, that particular location, or they're responsible for the payments that are being made there. And so if he desires to get away from her, if he's so afraid of her, we ask that he leave so that she could return to the place that she was living, that he came to live with her willingly. He was recently hospitalized for MH issues at Peachford. There's a lot more to this, Judge. That's why I said to get into all the dispute of the facts today wouldn't be relevant, but just suffice it to say that there's more to this story. We'll have an opportunity to address it at a later time. She won't. There's a private attorney that we believe is ultimately going to represent her on this case. But Judge, she does not have a history of violence. I didn't hear any convictions for violence. And the alleged victim made reference to something that we don't have on the criminal history. Given the lack of history, lack of failure to appears and probation violations, her ties to the community, Judge, we would ask that she be allowed to sign her own bond. We're fine with no further contact. We ask that she not be required to stay away from that address, or if the court is inclined to give him a short period of time to remove his things, we'd ask that the stay away be for a period of time, maybe a few days, to give him an opportunity to gather his things, and that she be allowed to return once he has left the location.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Bond is going to be set at $10,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. Ms. Karschner, you don't have to pay for your bond at the present time, but it is a high bond amount because I want you to understand that if you fail to comply with the conditions of the bond, a bench warrant will be issued for your arrest and your signature bond will be converted to what we call a surety bond or a cash bond. So it is very critical that you comply with the conditions of the bond or risk the possibility of having to pay $10,000 to get out of jail the next time. Do you understand?
I do, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
the first condition, if you haven't already predicted that, is going to be no further contact with Benjamin Haygood. You are to stay 200 yards away from him. You cannot speak to him in person. None of your family members or any third party can address him either in person, and none of you can address him through a third party, through a computer device, through a cell phone, or discuss him on social media. If anyone reaches out to Mr. Haygood on your behalf, you run the risk of being rearrested and come back to jail. All right. So please let your tribe know that it's very important that none of them speak to him or address him. Otherwise, the only person who's going to end up in trouble is you.
Understood.
No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. You are to stay away from the location at 202 Harbor Point in Sandy Springs until May 10th, 2022. Mr. Haygood, I believe that gives you adequate time to vacate the premises.
Your Honor, real quick, I will say that yesterday her father took the apartment keys. So he has the keys to the apartment. I don't have access to it.
Your Honor, I'll speak with the victim and I can advise him of his options that he has available.
Thank you.
All right. And you can also go to the leasing office and let them know if you, the prosecution will give you a copy of the order that you have a right to remain on the premises according to your testimony until, I'm giving you additional time. So until the close of business by 5 p.m., May 10th. Do you understand, sir?
I understand. Thank you so much, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Karschner, you may go to the property after 5 p.m. on May 10th, 2022, in order to resume occupancy of that location. Do you understand?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Your next court date will be sent to you at the 202 Harbor Point location. If you fail to appear, if you fail to comply with the conditions of the bond, you will be rearrested. While you're out on a pretrial bond, you will also attend a one-day anger awareness program, and your next court date will be sent to you at your address. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, sir.
On the next, we have position number 17, Ms. Proctor, position number 17.
All right, we have Samuel. Is it Samuel? Samuel Proctor, all right. Accused of simple battery domestic violence in case 22 CR 002-640C. This is from an incident allegedly from April 29th, 2022. Ms. Samuel, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Derek Howard. Ms. Roberts, any priors on Ms. Samuel?
No priors, first arrest.
Thank you. Mr. Walker?
Yes, Your Honor. The state is recommending a $1,000 surety bond to the one count simple battery family violence. We are asking for a stay away from the incident location, 4610 Spring Valley Parkway, and no further contact with the victim, Sakina Proctor. That is the defendant's mother. I'm sure you reviewed the warrant, but essentially she took her daughter's phone. Police were called and her daughter spit in her face in the presence of police officers. And that's why she ultimately was arrested. That's the state's recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Is Miss Sakina Waters or Proctor on the screen or on the Zoom conference? I honestly can't see her. So, all right. Bond is going to be set at $3,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, but her mother, she's actually here in the courtroom in the gallery.
Oh, in the courtroom. Okay.
Yes. Need me to
Does
bring
she
her
have
in?
any objection to a signature bond?
No.
I'm gonna need a co-signer, Judge. She's 17.
Okay. Does mom have any objection to a signature bond?
No.
I
She
can't
said
hear.
no.
She
You
said
want me to
no.
bring her up?
Sure.
Okay.
Ms. Roberts, do you have Sakina Proctor's address, phone number, name, all the details that you need?
In 1 second, let me put this on the book.
Check and let me know. Ms. Proctor, good afternoon. My name is Judge Law. Do you have any objection to your daughter returning to home or living with you?
No, I don't.
All right. Would you be able to co-sign her bond?
Yes.
All right. And you both, Samuel, are you planning to return home?
Yes.
All right. Now, I'm going to put a bond on your case. And if there's any violation of your bond, just like I advised the previous case, if there's any violation, what's going to end up happening is that the matter is completely out of your mother's hands. You will be back in jail. Your bond will be converted to what we call a cash bond. So if your little piggy bank has about $3,500, we will be glad to take that as bond money if you violate the conditions of your bond. Do you understand?
Yes.
It's a $3,500 signature bond through pretrial services. It will be co-signed by Miss Sakina Proctor. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that Sakina?
Sakeenaa.
Sakeenaa, okay. And Mrs. Proctor, when you go and co-sign your daughter's bond, you would need to make sure that you have a proper government issue ID, okay?
Okay.
And Ms. Roberts, I'll waive the utility requirement.
Okay.
Samil is not to have any further violent contact with Sakina Proctor. If there are any future verbal or physical altercations where law enforcement is involved, I'm so sorry, but the matter is out of Mommy Proctor's hands. You are back in jail, and you might end up staying in jail without a bond if there are any future altercations. Your next court date will be sent to you at the address that we have presently. You're not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. You'll also be subject to a curfew. You are to be home at 6 p.m. and you cannot leave until 6 a.m. Do you understand?
Yes.
Thank you.
Your Honor, next case will be position number 5.
This is Marlo Antonio Forts, Senior. Mr. Forts, your case number is 22 CR 2002625J. And this is from a 2021 incident. Are you aware of the charge brought against you?
I'm not aware of it. He told me about it, but I don't even recall the heavy.
Have you spoken to Mr. Paul Bartel, and have you discussed the charge with him?
Yes.
All right. So you are aware of the nature of the charge brought against you?
Yes.
All right. Your attorney is Mr. Bartel, and Mr. Bartel, I'm going to waive sounding of this charge.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Roberts, any priors?
3 cycles, with the last arrest being in 2017 for aggravated assault. There's no disposition listed. It looks like it was amended to a terroristic threat, and it was a first offender.
Okay.
And then a 2002 misdemeanor marijuana possession, no low plea. Nothing further.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Walker? Oh, sorry. Is it Ms. Saleh?
Yes, Your Honor. The state is going to be asking for a $3,500 straight bond on this charge, Your Honor, and to stay away from the victim, Shayna Purdyman. And just for you to also reiterate that he's to have no contact with her via social media as well.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Bartel, without reference to the charge, what's your argument?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I have spoken with Mr. Forts and have advised him of the nature of the charges against him. We would ask the court to consider a signature bond. I don't know if there was a pretrial report. Well, actually, there is a pretrial report. Let's see, it indicates that he would not meet their criteria. I'm not sure what any warrant is they're referring to, but we would still ask the court to consider a signature bond based on his limited history. He does have ties to the community. He is 41 years old, and he lives with his mother in Fayette County, is what I'm told. I'm also advised that he's employed full-time by Google. He is a forklift operator for Google in Union City.
Oh, okay.
I'm advised. So based on that, we would ask for a signature bond. I'm also told that he and the alleged victim have not had any contact in some time since this relationship ended. So a no further contact order would not be an issue.
Bond is set at $1,500. It's going to be a surety bond. And once he makes that bond, he would need to comply with the conditions. He's to have no further contact with Shayna Purdyman?
Purdyman.
Purdyman, Your Honor.
Okay, Purdyman, excuse me. He's to stay away from her place of employment, from where she lives, or wherever she happens to be physically standing. There has to be a 200-yard buffer. He's not to contact her through a third party, through a phone, through an electronic device, and definitely not through the internet or through any social media platform. Mr. Ford, you will be paying for your bond in order to be released, But please keep in mind that if Ms. Putterman reports that there is any attempt to communicate or discuss her, and that those transmissions are coming from you, that would result in a possible felony arrest for aggravated stalking. Aggravated stalking is, as I mentioned, is a felony charge. And if such a warrant is issued against you, you could end up at the Fulton County Jail with no bond for up to 3 months. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Your next court date is going to be May 12th. If you make bond, we will send you a new court date to your current address. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Your Honor, this next case is gonna be an add-on one.
Add-on one, okay. Sorry, let me just switch calendars in this. We only have one case on the add-on. Did you have another one?
I believe that's it, Your Honor. Mr. Gores was on the SCA County yesterday. I think he was a medical reset.
Understood. Okay, Mr. Mark Gore's case number is 22 CR 002576J. Mr. Gores has been accused of the misdemeanor offenses of criminal trespass, obstruction of a law enforcement officer, and public drunk from an incident date of April 27, 2022. Mr. Gores has been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Paul Bartel. Ms. Roberts, any priors?
11 cycles. Last arrest was November of 2020 for terroristic threats. That is the current active probation. 21 SC 177364. The disposition was April of 2021. 2 years, 6 months probation. Had a 2017 DUI and driving while license suspended or revoked conviction. A 2014 conviction for DUI. A 2012 conviction for DUI. A 2012 FTA.
That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Saleh?
Yes, Your Honor. The state was going to ask for a $1,000 straight bond on the criminal trespass charge, $3,000 straight bond on the obstruction charge, and $1,000 straight bond on the public drunkenness charge, and to stay away from the
Mexican pizza?
Yes, out of Roswell, Georgia, 1570 Holcomb Bridge Road. Due to his history and him being on probation, the state argues that he poses a likelihood of committing another crime while out on bond. He also has a prior FTA, so the state would argue that he posed the risk of not appearing for court.
Thank you. Mr. Bartel?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I was talking with Mr. Gores. Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm not on probation. Hey.
Okay, well, I've talked with Mr. Gores, Your Honor. He does dispute certain allegations in the accusations, including he alleged that he indicates he was not given a prior trespass warning. He is retired. I'm advised that he retired from FedEx and was on their disability, private disability for a while. Now he was in a vehicle accident, I'm informed, and now he is on disability as a result of that. He does have relatives. He indicated that his mother and his sister both live in the metro Atlanta area. He is 61 years old. He is wanting to ask the court for a signature bond based on that, as well as the fact that he indicates he has some sort of neurological disorder. He is not clear on whether it's Parkinson's or some type of neuropathy, but he indicates that he wants to get out and be able to address that, as well as address these charges. So he is wanting to ask the court for a signature bond on those bases. If the court's not inclined to do that, we would ask that bond remain the same. It's currently 2,000 total, 500, 1,000, and 500.
All right. Based on the allegations and his GCIC, bond on the criminal trespass is $1,000. On the obstruction is $500. On the public drunk is $500. Bond remains at $2,000. It may be a different breakdown. But,
it is, Your Honor. I think it's 1,000 on the obstruction.
Okay. It's a $2,000 surety bond. He is to stay 200 yards away. That's the length of 2 football fields from 1570, I believe. 1570 Holcomb Bridge Road in at Roswell, Georgia, or otherwise affectionately called the Connection Pizza Restaurant. Mr. Gores, you are not to return to that location. If you are seen, you will be arrested again for criminal trespass and run the risk of having your current bond revoked. You're not to consume any alcoholic beverages, no illegal drugs, and you're not to carry any weapons or firearms. Thank you. Your next court date is May 12th.
Next, Your Honor, we're gonna go to the conflict cases, which is only two. Position number 14, Mr. Longino.
Just checking, do we have any conflict counsel on the Zoom? Mr. Dark, Ms. McCloy, Ms. McLeod? Anyone? No? Okay. All right, position number 2, Casanova Brooks is accused of fare evasion from.
No, Your Honor, it's position 14.
Oh, 14, I'm so sorry, I
Yeah.
have 2. Let me repeat. I was thinking that didn't look like a Brooks, okay.
It's Mr. Longino, I think.
Longino, yes. Ernest Terry Longino is accused of simple battery from April 29, 2022. And Mr. Longino, your case number is 22 CR 002-627C. You've been already alerted as to your right to remain silent. Your counsel will be appointed shortly from the conflict defenders list. So I do not have an attorney presently to represent you. So I like to reiterate that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of your case during the current proceedings, your statements can and will be used against you. Ms. Roberts, his priors, please.
24 cycles. Last arrest was from 2016 for 3 counts of criminal damage to property. That was a conviction in 2017. He had a 2017 possession of tools for commission of a crime conviction. Then a 2009 conviction for criminal damage to property and possession of tools for the commission of a crime and theft by taking. 2007 conviction for possession of tools for commission of a crime, criminal damage to property.
Any convictions for any kind of violence, battery, assault, anything? And how long ago?
No, I don't see any. I just see that most of these are drugs and criminal damage to property.
Okay, thank you very much.
You see aggravated assault in 1980.
Oh, in 80, okay, thank you. Mr. Walker? Or Ms. Salette?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, was this Longino?
Longino, that's right.
I believe that.
Ms. Salette?
You said position 14?
Yes.
Let me check with her.
Your Honor, she just got booted, unfortunately, from the
Okay.
room, so she's coming back in.
Oh,
All right.
thank you, Mr. Hopkins.
Yeah, not having a good track with Zoom today. Okay.
I'm just trying to play air traffic control.
You are doing an excellent job. Thank you.
So I think that ASG Stilett may be a minute. Is it possible we can come back to this case to keep the calendar moving?
Officer, if you could place Mr. Longino on the side, I'll take the next case. That is Mr. Walker. Which positions do you have?
You previously mentioned Casanova Brooks, position 2. We could start there. That should be a fairly easy shoe-in, if you will.
I think she might be in the South Annex, so.
Oh, that's a female?
No. I have Casanova.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brooks is there.
Casanova Brooks, okay?
I just had a certain order, Your Honor, that's all.
I totally respect that. Thank you. All right. Mr. Casanova Brooks is 22 CR 002-638F, accused of fare evasion from April 29th, 2022. Mr. Brooks, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Bartell. Any priors with regards to Marta, Ms. Roberts?
Not to cut Ms. Roberts off, but the state was going to ask for a $500 SOB to the jail with the stay away from Lakewood.
And I totally appreciate that cutoff. Thank you very much. It's a $500 signature bond through the jail.
Thank you, Your Honor, and Mr. Walker.
All right, Ms. Bartell, thank you. And you can thank Mr. Walker.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Walker. Yes.
Mr. Brooks, the prosecutor is agreeing to let you out on a signature bond through the jail. That is their message to you, that they do not want you to reoffend and that they want you to come back to court when noticed. The current address we have on you is a location at Washington Street. Is that still a good address?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. When you get your notice, please come back to court and maybe we can get this case resolved without too much to do. All right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Ms. Salette, are you back on the Zoom? No? Okay. What's your next case, Mr. Walker?
I have
You have 21?
21. Let me check my notes. 1 second. I do not have 21. I have position 20 though. I'm not sure.
We can go to 20.
Oh, Ms. Salette is here. That's fine. Mr. Longino, please.
Okay.
So we can go back to position number 14, Mr. Longino.
Yes, please.
My apologies, Your Honor. I
No
just
problem.
told my kids to get off the tablet. I think they were taking up the internet.
No, I've been there. All right. Ms. Salette, please tell us what's your recommendation for Mr. Longino.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm not sure if you all heard from pretrial or not. Mr. Longino has 24 cycles. I saw that he
Yes, we've heard his pretrial. I believe his last alleged violence issue was back in the 80s. So.
Yes, Your Honor. So the state's going to ask for a $3,500 straight bond on this case, no contact with Glovia Hawkins, and stay away from 918 Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway, Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. Bond is going to be set at $1,000 signature bond through pretrial, and it's going to be Mr. Longino. You can sign up for your bond, but you have to comply with the conditions. If you don't comply with the conditions, then the next time you come back to jail, make sure you bring $1,000 with you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, was that to the jail?
Just one, this is, well, let me see. Mr. Longino, what's your current address, mailing address?
201 Washington Street.
Is that the shelter?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We'll go with that address, 201 Washington Street, Atlanta, Georgia. It will be through pretrial. You will report to your pretrial office. And do you have a good phone and email?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. If you can give that to the officer, they can put that in the chat to Ms. Roberts for pretrial. All right. No contact with Glovia. Was it Hawkins?
Hawkins, Your Honor.
Hawkins, okay. No contact with her. Do you know what I mean by no contact?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that means stay 200 yards away and you cannot communicate with her in person or through any kind of phone or through a third party. And you cannot return to 918 Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway. Any particular reason to go back to that location?
No, ma'am.
All right, so if you have no reason, then there shouldn't be a problem staying away, correct?
That's right.
And this will be the last time I see you in jail, correct?
So will.
All right. Good luck, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we have position number 21, Mr. Jonathan Worthen.
I have Jonathan Worthen. Is that the same person?
Yeah, Worthen, yes. Your Honor.
Okay. Jonathan Ezekiel Worthen Sr. is accused of simple battery, domestic violence, and criminal trespass from April 29, 2022 in case 22 CR 002-621Y. Mr. Worthen, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Paul Bartell.
Well, Your Honor, I'll just clarify. I can't represent Mr. Worthen because I would be representing the cross defendant in this case, which is Mr. Jackson, number 10. They were both arrested at the same time, but I can, just for the court's benefit, I can say that Mr. Jackson, were this case to proceed, he would invoke his Fifth Amendment privilege and would decline to testify against Mr. Worthen.
All right, Officer Deputy, is Mr. Jackson present?
Yes, yes, he is.
May
Yeah.
we bring him forward and stand behind Mr. Worthen?
Sure.
Thank
Yep,
you.
stand on each side of the chair. Come on. Stand right there. And you stand right there.
All right, we're going to address position number 10 as well. Derek Lamar Jackson, also accused of simple battery domestic violence, a cross defendant with regards to Mr. Worthen. So Ms. Roberts, any priors on Mr. Jackson?
No,
Okay. Any priors on Mr. Worthen?
no.
All right. Mr. Walker, do you have anything in particular that you'd like to address?
Yes, I have position 10, Mr. Jackson. The state is asking for a $1,500 surety bond. In that case, no further violent contact with his cross defendant. And that's
it?
Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, Mr. Worthen, both of you have a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. You're both to have no further violent contact, which means that no future physical or verbal altercations, no illegal drugs and no weapons and no firearms. But if you enjoy the jail so much, then it's simply a matter of violating the conditions of your signature bond, and we will welcome you back to the jail on the red carpet. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we will send you notice. Do you both have a good mailing address?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Worthen, what's your mailing address?
Our address is 5401 Old National. 5401 Old National Highway, apartment 1412, College Park, Georgia, 30349.
Excellent. Okay. We will send you your notices to come back to court, and please make sure you work with your attorneys. Mr. Worthen, you will have to be appointed conflict counsel. So you can come back to the clerk's office or state court anytime to find out who's your conflict counsel. And Mr. Jackson, your attorney is Mr. Paul Bartel. Good
Yes.
luck.
Thank you,
Thank
Your
you.
Honor.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Next, we have position number 8, Mr. David Hamilton.
Okay. Try to make sure I put down. Worthen. Okay.
Hey, Paul. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay. David E. Hamilton is accused of criminal trespass from a July 13, 2021 incident, and he's been accused under case number 22 CR 002-643J. You've been advised of your right to remain silent. And Mr. Bartel, is this a conflict case or your client?
It's not a conflict case, Your Honor. It's my case.
All right. Ms. Roberts, any priors on Mr. Hamilton?
Yes, he has 37 prior, 29 out of California, 6 out of Nevada, and 2 out of Georgia. Last arrest was July 13, 2021 out of Fulton County for criminal trespass. There's no disposition listed, so that appears to be open. Has a 2017 conviction for receiving stolen property out of Nevada. Has a 2016 conviction out of California, and that was for battery. It was a felony conviction.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Walker, I know we'd like to expound on the background, but I really just like your recommendation.
I'm giving $1,000 surety bond based on the history, and just so the defendant knows, he has a lifetime ban plus 5 years. They're more than familiar with him at Georgia Tech.
I'm curious as to what that means.
That they never want to see him again at PD Bartel.
Lifetime plus 5.
I understand it's just a criminal trespass, but based on his history and whatever he's done at Georgia Tech, the people are sick of it. So it's $1,000 surety bond, Your Honor.
That's the impression I got from the readings, Mr. Bartel. But I'm also curious to know whether the lifetime,
Well, it always sounds like it's parolable, and after that, they're trying to add more time. I've talked with Mr. Hamilton about his case, Your Honor. He is from Tennessee, but he indicated that he has some relatives, aunt and cousins who are living in Georgia, so he does have some ties to the community. He indicates that he is not employed, but he is looking for employment. He is wanting to ask the court for a signature bond. What he has advised me is that from a previous arrest, Georgia Tech, he says, still had some property of his, including an ID card and a phone, and he was told that he could come back to get that. And he wants the court to know that that is why he was at Georgia Tech. So there was not a mechanism set up, he said, for how to reacquire his property. So he is asking for a signature bond on that basis. If the court is not inclined to do that, we would ask for a $500 good bond.
I believe he was arrested. I mean, I believe he was asleep when he was arrested, but.
Well, I was thinking 500 cash bond only, but I'm going to go with the state's recommendation of $1,000 surety bond. And, but Mr. Hamilton, if you have property with Georgia Tech, you would have to wait until the resolution of this case to retrieve your property. Until then, you are not allowed on any property that belongs to the Institute Technology of Georgia. We also referred to as Georgia Tech.
Hey, Judge, may I please take a plea offer because I just served my time. My case was
go to, yeah, you can take a plea offer. Yes, you can.
It's time served.
You can.
I can get a time served because it's just a trespassing and I was just getting my property. I just served time here at Fulton County. Okay. I went back to the Georgia Tech and I just was actually receiving my property and I said, they said they gave me a trespassing. I was waiting for the property office to open and they gave me
stop.
Sir, I wouldn't say anything more about your case.
You know, if you want to take a plea, that's fine. But the more you talk,
I'll take a plea.
I have the discretion to say no plea today, and we will address it on May 12th. So if you talk anymore, I'm going to wait till May 12th to address your plea. You understand?
And Judge, if you could interject, Judge.
And if we can get the documents to the jail for Mr. Hamilton to review and sign off, I'll be glad to take the plea after I address all the other cases.
Okay, Judge, will you be taking that pro se? Because obviously there could be MH issues, you know. So, okay, if the court is willing to take that pro se, we'll be
understood.
You know, that's what.
Do you believe there are MH issues?
I mean, I don't know, Judge, but it sounds like potentially, I don't know. But obviously that's part of the reason why it's better to kind of have a longer interview, to meet people, see them, talk with them.
All right, let me inquire. Mr. Bartell.
I think we could go to a breakout room and address it, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Mr. Hamilton, please have a seat. We will address your plea request. And Mr. Bartell, we will take a breakout after I've addressed the other cases. Next case, Officer Norris.
Excuse me, Judge.
Yes.
Can we go back because Mr. Wortham in position number 22 had 2 charges?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And we only addressed
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Your Honor, we already took them back to
no worries. It's still going to be $1,000 surety bond. It's going to be 500 on, I mean, a signature bond is going to be 500 on each count.
So do we need the physical body?
No.
Okay, thank you.
The bond's going to be the same amount.
All right.
No further violent contact with each other.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so you have it as a total $2,000 SOB through the jail. So do you want it to be $1,000 on each one?
Did I put 2,000 or 1,000? Remind me. I'm so sorry.
It's 2,000.
Then it's 1,000 each. Just break it.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Total. Thank you.
Okay.
Next case, Deputy.
Next, we have position number 13, Mr. Dan Land. Okay. Position number 13.
Mr. Dan, last name Land, L-A-N-D, the third, accused of battery from an April 29, 2022 incident. And Mr. Land's the case number is 22 CR 0026418H. Mr. Land, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Paul Bartell. Ms. Roberts?
That should be my case, Judge.
Oh, okay, sorry, Mr. Howard. Yes, go ahead, Ms. Roberts.
4 cycles, with the last arrest being March of 2020 for a probation violation. Has a total of 2 probation violations in his history, and the underlying charge is a DUI conviction from 2019. Nothing further.
What was the oldest arrest?
2020 probation violation.
Okay, thank you.
This is my case, Your Honor.
Yeah,
The state is requesting a $2,000 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, Miracle Graham, and a stay away from 370 Northside Drive. That is the location of their apartment that they share.
And is Ms. Graham present today?
I do not see Ms. Graham. We are opposed to the signature bond based upon the defendant's 2 violations of probation, I believe, in the last 2 years, however.
Right. Okay, thank you. Mr. Howard.
Yes, Judge. Mr. Land is 22 years old. He is a lifelong Georgia resident. He grew up in the Albany area. However, he has been here most recently. He's a student at Georgia State. He's finishing up his junior year. He's a health and physical education major at Georgia State. He also works at LA Fitness. So he's obviously concerned about being able to maintain the employment that he's had for the past 5 months. Judge, I haven't spoken directly with Judge, I believe we're fine with no further contact based on my conversation with Ms. Graham. So I was able to reach her. So no further contact is, fine. And Mr. Land has given me an alternate. He doesn't have the exact address, but he does have 2 options of alternate places he can go. He will just need to provide the exact address after court today. One is the Sky Lofts at West End, which is in the West End area. He just doesn't know the street address. And then he has a relative that lives in Lithonia that he doesn't quite know the street address. But if the court is inclined to have him stay away and a no further contact, then we will provide that address after today. And we would ask the court, Judge, given that I heard the violations of probation, so underlying DUI charges, Judge, it doesn't appear he has a history of any type of violence. So we would ask the court to consider a signature bond in this case or any convictions for violence. So we would ask the court to consider an SOB.
Mr. Walker, I just want to clarify, he was cited under 16.523.1. This is a DB matter, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. I'm not sure if the accusation was reflecting that. So y'all would need to file an amended accusation.
I will certainly look into it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Your Honor. Is it any way possible?
Hold on, Mr. Land. The judge, if you have something to say related to things we discussed or need to discuss, I would ask you to hold off on that.
Mr. Land, that's actually very good advice from your attorney, because this is a domestic violence matter based on the allegation that you and the alleged victim were previously roommates. So that's why it's a family violence matter. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Given the nature of the charges, the egregious allegations have been set forth in the warrant, as well as your criminal history record, your bond is set at $2,000. It's a surety bond. You have to have no further contact with Ms. Graham, and you cannot return to 370 Northside Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And you may return to the location one time only with a police officer. On that one-time visit, you can retrieve your personal belongings, and that visit cannot exceed 2 hours. It's a $2,000 good bond, and your next court date is May 12th. Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, we have position number
Thank you,
1, Mr. Christopher Beasley. Position number 1.
Thank you. Christopher Beasley is case 22 CR 002-623F, accused of criminal trespass and fair evasion from April 29, 2022. Mr. Beasley, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Paul Bartel. Ms. Roberts, any prior criminal trespass convictions?
Any prior criminal trespass conviction? Let me see.
And how many cycles does he have?
He has a total of 20 cycles, 13 out of Missouri, 1 out of Nevada, 1 out of Georgia, 3 out of Texas, and 2 out of Illinois.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Ms. Saleh?
Yes, Your Honor. From what I saw in his history, he had several fugitive from justice arrests out of different states. For that reason, the state is going to ask for $1,000 straight bond on each charge due to the fact that he poses a significant risk of not returning back to court for these charges. He was also issued a stay away from MARTA from April 21st to May 5th that he did not follow, so we would ask that he stay away from MARTA as well.
Ms. Roberts, the fugitive hold, which state is that? Which jurisdiction?
Give me one moment, please.
I don't see a fugitive hold on this.
It's showing up on Odyssey, so I was curious. I didn't have the details.
I don't see a fugitive hold either.
Ms. Saleh, it's one listed on Odyssey, but it doesn't pull up any documents. So I'm just wondering whether he is under any kind of extradition proceeding.
I'm not wanted anywhere, nowhere. I'm not.
I would not speak, Mr. Beasley, unless you would like to help the prosecution in their case.
Well, there's no help in prosecution.
Don't say anything more, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Judge, that was a 2014 arrest at the jail for a fugitive hold that he was transferred to another agency. There's no hold for a fugitive on there.
Okay, no. Thank you. On the all right, Mr. Bartel, on the criminal trespass is $1,000. On the fair evasion is $500. It's a signature bond through the jail. You're not to return to any MARTA property. And and right now for address wise, I thought I saw a Washington Street location.
Yeah, he indicates that is his address, Your Honor, and he's getting mail there.
Yeah, the mail there.
Yeah, and Mr. Beasley, you'll have to stay away from MARTA, okay?
Yeah, but that was the thing I wanted you to ask about.
Well, no.
30 days. Sarge on here. This is the one I'm talking about.
Hey.
Yeah, sir, just don't say anything, okay?
Mr. Beasley, if you don't want to be released, just let me know and I can change it to a cash bond.
No, ma'am.
And the other way you can come back to jail is if you go back and use the MARTA facilities, because they will arrest you again.
No, I'm not gonna do that. That's not, I just want to know the exact date when that's over with.
Okay.
Just keep up with your mail and come back to court when summoned. If you don't show up, we will arrest you again.
This one's not an accurate one I have on here?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, never mind. Thank you, ma'am. We'll wait till next week.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Next case, please.
Next, we have position number 3, Mr. Jonathan Brown. Position number 3.
Mr. Brown is accused of theft by shoplifting from September 24th, 2021 in case number 22 CR 002644C. Mr. Brown, you've been advised of your right to remain silent and your attorney is Mr. Paul Bartel. Any prior shoplifting or crimes of moral turpitude on behalf of Mr. Brown?
Yes, he has 14 cycles. He's currently on probation for theft by shoplifting out of Fayette County. The disposition date was April of 2021. It was 5 years probation. He also has a theft by shoplifting open case out of Fulton County, which is 22 CR 002644C. Has a FTA from 2021, 3 probation violations. And you asked me a second question. What was the second question?
That was it. What was prior crimes of theft? Thank you.
And I'd just like to add just a little bit of clarity. I've counted his convictions since 2021. He has had 5 felony theft convictions since last year.
So are we keeping the case?
We are not keeping the case. However, I do have to get a copy of the certified dispositions before our DA's office will take it. I perhaps will have to wait till Monday to make that happen, but I fully believe that this case will be transferred at the open of business come Monday. But for the time being, the state is asking for a $3,000 surety bond, and I think that's a more than generous bond recommendation based on his criminal history, if you will. Of course, we're asking for a stay away from the Home Depot. Really, we're asking for a stay away from all Home Depots within Fulton County. We'll leave it at that. And he does have another open case, which is interstate interference with custody of a child and delinquency of a minor, on top of the 5 felony theft convictions since last year. So.
All right. Mr. Bartel.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your client currently has a $2,000 surety bond.
Is that $2,500, Judge? That's what I've got in the paperwork.
Oh, it's $2,500. Excuse me. Yes.
Yeah, I have talked with Mr. Brown about this case. I would note, it looks like the allegation is that there's not an exact date. The warrant says between 9/24 and 9/26. It looks like a strange allegation. You know, he's accused of gathering items and taking them up to a checkout, and then the staff person helped him ring them up and he pulled out cash, but then it said he committed shoplifting. I'm not sure how it follows, or how it follows that he was identified as a person that allegedly did this. There's nothing in the warrant about that. Based on that, he is wanting to ask for a signature bond. He does have, the mother of his children lives in the metro Atlanta area. He's got 2 kids in the Atlanta area, I'm told, that he regularly sees and is involved with raising. I'm advised that he worked full-time at a warehouse for Dawn, DAWN Incorporated, and that he can get that job back when he gets out of jail. He is asking for a signature bond on that basis, and if the court is not inclined to do that, we would just ask the bond to remain the same.
All right, thank you. So $2,500 surety bond, and stay away from all Home Depot stores in the state of Georgia. And his next court date is May 12, 2022. Miss Holly, I'd like to go ahead and place this other case as well on the SAP calendar, which is 22 CR, was it 02244C?
I have it.
You have his other case?
I will put it on the calendar with
Okay.
this case. For the
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, man, somebody been using my identity. That's why I'm trying to tell them that ain't me. That wasn't.
All
me.
right, Mr. Brown, if you have a defense, please discuss that with the public defense attorney, and we will address that on May 12th.
Yes, ma'am. All right, send it to me.
Next, Your Honor, we have position number 4, Mr. Jarrell Dukes.
Mr. Jarrell Dewan Dukes is accused of battery domestic violence from April 29, 2022 in case 22 CR 002-624A. Mr. Dukes, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Paul Bartel. Yes, Mr. Roberts, any priors?
Yes. He has 10 cycles out of Georgia, and that's all. He has 10 cycles out of Georgia.
Any DV matters on battery or assault issues?
No, majority of his arrests, he has a battery conviction from 2001, and he has 4 other convictions, but they're all DUIs.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Saleh?
Yes, Your Honor. He does have that battery conviction. I also saw a 2001 Affray arrest. The state would be asking for a $3,500 straight bond, stay away from Jerry Duke, no contact with Jerry Dukes, and stay away from 5270 Estate Drive, Atlanta, Georgia. I know that those prior arrests and convictions are older, but it seems like he has a pattern of violence. So the state would be asking for a straight bond in this case.
All right. Is that an Atlanta address, the Estate Drive location?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And Mr. Bartel, does your client have an alternative address?
Yeah, I'm advised that he lives with his father. Your Honor, the alleged victim is his father, Mr. Jerry Dukes. I actually was able to reach him and talk with him. Mr. Dukes, the elder Jerry Dukes, said that he was not in fear of his safety, and that he is okay with the younger Mr. Dukes, my client, coming back to stay with him, but he wants him to get a referral to a social worker who can evaluate him and see if there's some service that might be able to help him. I've advised him that we can do that through our agency, but he said that if that is done, he would not be opposed to a signature bond and Mr. Dukes coming back to his home.
Your Honor, I'm gonna object to everything he just said that the victim said, because we haven't had any contact with him and he's not here to actually say that.
Well, I'm
himself.
stating that as an officer of the court, Your Honor.
Understood, understood. And I appreciate that, Ms. Salette, as well. So if Jerry Dukes, if the parent, Jerry Dukes, would like to allow Mr. Jarrell Dukes back into the property, he would need to reach out to the victim advocate officers. But in the meantime, on the battery domestic violence, bond is set at $4,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. He's to have no further contact with Jerry Dukes. He's not to contact his father in person, through a third party, through any kind of electronic device, or through any social media. He is not to return to 5270 Estate Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. He shall find an alternative residence, and he will update the court with his new address within 30 days of being released on the signature bond. While he is on release, he will undertake an MHET at his expense, as well as attend and complete a one-day anger awareness program with pretrial. The MHET program must be completed within 60 days of being released. And Mr. Dukes, pretrial will advise you as where you can go to get what we call an MHET. And that will be at your expense. No illegal drugs, no weapons, and no firearms. Thank you.
And Your Honor, just to clarify, if his father, or is there a way to, what would be the best way to change the conditions of that bond? As I said, the state represents to the court all the time things that they're told by the
Understood. No, I'm not basing it on Mr. Jerry Dukes' preferences. I'm basing it strictly on the allegations and the history we have. That's it.
Okay, all right. And the SAP date is May 12th.
May 12th is got a $4,000 signature bond through pretrial.
Okay, got it. All right, thank
his
you.
next court date will be mailed to him at his new address. He has to let us know in 30 days what's his new address.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Judge.
Yes.
So you saying, my dad said I could come back home. You saying I cannot go back there?
That is correct.
I'm saying, but I don't have nowhere to stay.
You have 30 days to find one.
Well, Mr. Dukes, I've been in touch with your son. We'll address that.
Next, we have position number 7, Mr. Green, position number 7.
Collis Theon Green, with an E,
Yes, ma'am.
is accused of theft by shoplifting and simple assault from April 19th, 2022, in case number 22 CR 002-635B. Mr. Green, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Paul Bartel. And Ms. Roberts?
He has 41 cycles. The last arrest was in 2016 for a probation violation. The underlying charge was aggravated assault and terroristic threats. That conviction was in 2010. He had a 2010 criminal trespass conviction, 2010 willful obstruction conviction, theft by shoplifting conviction, 2009, a theft by shoplifting conviction in 2008.
Your Honor, but I didn't change, Your Honor.
A battery conviction in 2007.
I didn't change.
A CWAC misdemeanor conviction in 2006.
That's good. Thank you.
Ways back, but I didn't change.
Sir, don't say anything is my advice.
All right, Ms. Salette?
Yes, Your Honor. The state is going to request a $1,000 straight bond on each charge. I know I guess his last arrest was in 2016. But he does have some violent charges in his history, and he also has some theft charges in his history as well. The state would also be asking that he stay away from the Walton Market at 64 Walton Street, Atlanta, Georgia, and no contact with Jay Lee, and that's Jaelee.
Mr. Bartel?
Yes, Your Honor. I've spoken with Mr. Green about his case. He wants the court to know he's got a 14-year-old daughter that lives with him that he cares for. He works 2 jobs. I'm advised that he works maintenance at the Atlanta Braves Stadium, the truest stadium there in Cobb County. He also works at Staff Zone temporary service in Doraville. So he is employed. He does have ties to the community. From what I know, it does seem like his last arrest was 6 years ago, and that was a probation violation for a case that was before then. So it has been longer than that since his last arrest. Based on that, he is asking for a signature bond from the court. If the court is not inclined to do that, we would ask for a $500 bond on each charge for $1,000 total.
On the theft by shoplifting is $1,000. On the simple assault is $500. Total bond is set at $1,500. Is a surety bond. No further contact with Jay Lee, to stay away from the Walton Market on Walton Street, and no illegal drugs, no weapons, and no firearms. His next court date is going to be May 12th. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Next, Your Honor, we have position number 9, Mr. Andre Gary Henry Jr.
All right.
Number 9.
Mr. Andre Henry is accused of battery, domestic violence, and from April 10th, 2022. His accusation number is listed as 22 CR 002 646E. Mr. Paul Bartel will be advocating on your behalf, so please exercise your right to remain silent. Ms. Roberts?
What was position number?
9.
9.
I have it as the first arrest.
Henry.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the state's recommendation is a $2,500 surety bond. Stay away from the incident location, 1018 Windridge Drive, and no further contact with Patricia Chuckwu. She is on the line, and I would like to provide her an opportunity to speak if she would like to address the court.
All right, Ms. Chuckwu, my name is Judge Lal. If you'd like to address the court, please unmute your screen and start your video. Would you like
Hi,
to?
Your Honor.
Hello. Would you like to say something, or you have the right not to say anything if you choose to do so?
I would like to say something. Since the incident
May I
happened.
place you under
Oh, I'm
oath?
sorry.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
All right. How do you know Andre Henry?
He's my fiance.
Do you all live together?
Yes, we do, Your Honor.
And this incident occurred about 2 weeks ago?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and what would you like to tell me?
Since the incident happened, we have been seeking, counseling, and I would like him to come back. He doesn't pose any threat to me. He's a great father. We have a 1-year-old together. As long as there will be no future violence between the both of us, that would be great. If he can be released as soon as possible, if that can be done, I really appreciate that.
What does that mean? There won't be any future violence?
Because things happen, people argue, as long as there's no physical fight involved in it.
Well, that's good, but that's not what happened here, is it?
We got into a heated argument, and it was the both of us involved. So at the time, I was filled with emotions, but that's not the case anymore.
Thank you. Mr.
Thank you,
Walker,
Your
did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, Your Honor, you are aware of the cycles of violence, so it's not unusual for a victim.
Objection, Your Honor. I don't think there's been any expert testimony presented about it.
Okay, and I never proclaimed that there has been expert testimony, so I'm not sure of the basis of objection.
Okay, folks, we've all been through the many seminars, so, and we all aware of what's going on. So let's skip over that part and just let me know, do you have any changes? to
Yes.
the recommendation?
The state is concerned for the victim's safety. I understand that she's saying that there won't be any future violence. The victim can only control her actions. She cannot control the defendant's actions, and the state takes exception to the case. In reading the warrant, the defendant choked the victim and told her he was going to take her out of here. Essentially, he told her he was going to kill her. That alone, the state is very concerned. It has been 2 weeks, so perhaps they have reconciled, but the state is concerned for witness intimidation, improper influence of the witness. This is a domestic violence case, and as I already referenced the cycles of violence, the state is asking for that stay away and no further contact and a surety bond in the amount of $2,500. And that's a more than reasonable bond recommendation. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. Mr. Bartel?
Well, yeah, Your Honor, there's been no testimony presented about any cycle of violence in relation to this particular relationship. I'm not aware of any allegations that there have been any previous arrests involved with Mr. Henry on any violent charge. So we would object to all that. I did speak with Ms. Chukwu. She did indicate that she was not in fear of her safety and is not opposed to a no further violent contact provision. So we would be asking that. We would ask that Mr. Henry be able to sign his own bond. He is, I've been advised, he works in accounting. He works 2 jobs, one for Rogers Electric and the other for Advanced Parts. I believe they make electric parts. So he is employed. He does have ties to the community. And looking over I do have the pretrial report. It looks like the charge that's listed is a driving with a suspended license. I'm not seeing anything with any violent history. So based on all of that, we would ask for a signature bond.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Chukwu, you wanted to add something very briefly. What would you like to say?
Yes, Your Honor. I am not in fear of my safety, and I go with his lawyer, whoever is defending whatever he said. I agree with it.
Okay, I'm glad you do, Ms. Chukwu, but let's get one thing straight. When there is a domestic altercation and law enforcement gets involved, now the subject of your relationship is not between the two of you, you've now involved the courts. And where it's a domestic violence matter, the prosecution of this case is entirely with the Solicitor General's Office of Fulton County. And when it comes to release and contact provisions, that is going to be dictated by the bond set by the judge. And whether we like it or not, this is a domestic violence case. And Ms. Chukwu and Mr. Henry, based on the allegations of the warrant, I could see where Judge Manning could have gone either way. She presently went with a misdemeanor battery. If this case goes to trial and the prosecution proves the charge against Mr. Henry beyond a reasonable doubt, he could be looking at a sentence of up to 1 year in prison. If Judge Manning had taken the alternative course of action and decided to charge him with aggravated assault strangulation, he could be looking at a sentence that far exceeds 10 years. Do you understand?
I do, Your Honor.
All right. So I understand your position. I understand your lack of fear, and I understand your request that you want him home to be back with the family. But now this case is with the courts, and both parties, both the defendant and the alleged victim, have to follow the procedures of a domestic violence case. The bond is going to be set at $5,000. This is going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. He doesn't have to pay for the bond, but he will have to comply with the conditions. If there are any violations of the condition, or if you, Ms. Chukwu, help him violate the conditions of the bond, he could end up back in jail with a felony aggravated stalking charge, which gives him no bond for up to 3 months. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor. Does that mean
now,
we
Ms.
can't?
Chukwu, you need to mute your screen.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Henry, your bond is $5,000 signature bond through pretrial. You are to have no further contact with Patricia Chukwu. You have to have no further contact with the minor child or children that you share with Ms. Chukwu. If you wish to have visitation or custody, joint custody with any of the child or children, you will go to Superior Court and file the appropriate legitimation action in order to establish any custody or visitation issues. Do you understand?
Your Honor.
You're to stay 200 yards away from Ms. Chukwu. You're not to contact her in any way, form, or manner, with the exception that you can provide her with funding if you are supporting the family. And that contact can only be done electronically, like through Cash App, Venmo, or any kind of similar application. You're not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. And while you are released on pretrial services, you will complete a 4-week anger management program at your expense, and that must be done within 120 days of your release. Within 30 days of being released, you will update the court with your new address. You can return to the residence that you share with Ms. Chukwu one time only with a police officer to retrieve your personal belongings, and that visit cannot exceed 2 hours. Do you understand, sir?
Yes.
All right. Now, if you work with the conditions, work with the anger management program, and if victim advocate's office is satisfied that they are agreeing to contact, then the bond order can be modified. But like I said, until that point is reached, this matter has now been placed within the courts rather than with the individuals themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Next, we have position number 15, Mr. Luis Pereira Perez.
Mr. Okay, I think the first name is Luis
Yes.
Pereira Perez. Okay. Mr. Perez, we have a case 22 CR 002-630E. You've been accused of driving while license suspended or revoked and operating the vehicle while allegedly performing a reckless stunt while driving. And this incident apparently occurred on April 17th, 2022. Mr. Pereira, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Paul Bartel.
It'd be me, Your Honor.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Derek Howard. Mr. Roberts, any priors?
He has 5 priors, with the last arrest being November of 2021 for fleeing or attempting to elude a police officer. With Lawrenceville Police Department, there's no disposition listed. Had a 2018 conviction. It was a hit and run. It was amended to failure to report an accident. Had a 2017 misdemeanor marijuana possession conviction, a 2016 reckless driving conviction, and nothing further to add.
All right, thank you. Ms. Salette?
Yes, Your Honor. On this case, the state would ask for a $1,500 straight bond on each charge. To the defendant's driving history, he's had a reckless driving conviction, fleeing and attempting to elude conviction, arrested on hit and run, but was convicted of failure to report an accident. Now he's back again with the reckless stunt driving arrest, Your Honor. The state would also request that he actually be banned from driving while he's out on bond and stay away from Rucker Road and House Road in Roswell, Georgia. This is a public safety case. He's had a history of endangering the public with his driving. So that would be the state's request today, Your Honor.
Mr. Howard?
Judge, Mr. Perez is 26 years old. He's been living here in the Metro Atlanta area for 15 years. He's self-employed. He started his own construction business, which has been doing pretty well. And Judge, we heard the history, but I will note that those aren't convictions, and he tells me that he actually has a counsel on that previous case, and that they expect that to be dismissed because they've been able to provide evidence that he was not in fact operating a vehicle. And Judge, in this case, and I've had this discussion with Mr. Perez, it appears that his troubles are more coming from him attempting to help out associates and friends by allowing their vehicles to be registered under his insurance, because essentially they connected him to this because the insurance on the vehicle was a policy in his name. And then we believe identity is an issue in this case. He tells me that he was not operating the vehicle in this case. Judge, given that it is a nonviolent charge, we would ask the court to consider a signature bond in this case, the alternative 500 on each charge. And Judge, obviously we would ask that the court not impose as a condition of bond a restriction that will be actually more restrictive than he'd likely face if he were convicted. I mean, he would certainly have points on his license, but to say that he shouldn't be allowed to drive when there's not been any proof of him being guilty of this, we believe is certainly extraordinary. So we would ask the court to allow him to either sign his own bond or a $500 bond on each charge for a total of $1,000.
And Your Honor, I just want to add, I'm sorry, I misspoke. He was not convicted on that fleeing and attempting to elude. It is still open and pending in Lawrenceville, Your Honor.
Okay. So just to be clear, Mr. Howard, you're saying that the vehicle that was allegedly being driven at 7:20 p.m., allegedly doing those donuts in the intersection that early evening on April 17, 2022, that vehicle was being operated by someone who happens to be on the same insurance policy as Mr. Perez?
Yes, he's named in the warrant, Judge, or in some of the documents, or Mr. Arroyo is actually the other party. Yeah. The police reached out to him. He, of course, he was afraid and began to implicate that he was not the one operating the vehicle. They essentially ran the plates and they got the insurance information and determined that Mr. Perez, the car was registered under his insurance. And then based on that, they sort of tied him into it. And so, but he tells me that he was not driving. We believe that any evidence or any video evidence will confirm that he was not actually the person driving the vehicle, that Mr. Arroyo was operating the vehicle in an attempt to save himself, sort of threw his friend under the bus. And we talked about the importance of making decisions as it relates to, who you'll help, because it can come back to bite you in situations such as this. So we would ask the court to take that into account.
Well, let's see if Mr. Arroyo is a true blue friend. It's $1,000 surety bond on each count. And Mr. Perez, hopefully your friend will be able to step up and work with the prosecutor to see if they can resolve this case against you. But presently it is a $2,000 surety bond based strictly on your traffic record, and no driving at all, unless you have a valid driver's license attached to your person, you have adequate automobile insurance and proper registration that the vehicle you're operating does belong to you or that is in your name.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And the reset date is 5/12, Judge?
May 12th.
All right. Thank you, Judge.
Next, we have position number 16, Mr. Donald Pride.
Donald Pride is accused of obtaining an unlawful entry into murder and criminal trespass in case 22 CR 002-633F from April 29, 2022. Mr. Pride, you have a right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Howard. Ms. Roberts?
First arrest.
All right, thank you. Ms. Salette, any objection to a signature bond through the jail?
Your Honor, for the record, I will object to a signature bond. He was suspended from MARTA effective March 4th, 2022 to May 3rd, 2022, and did not follow the directive at that time. The state would be asking for a $500 straight bond on each charge, but I do understand the discretion of the court, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Pride, your bond is going to be on the obtaining unlawful entry. It's going to be $500. On the criminal trespass is $500. It's a $1,000 signature bond through the jail. You are to stay away from all MARTA property. Do you understand?
Yes.
And stay away from all MARTA property until all suspensions have been lifted. So you need to find out with their main Lindbergh office, when's your suspension ending? I don't think it's ending on May 3rd anymore. I think it may be a lot longer because of this new arrest. So if you return to MARTA property before May 3rd or anytime on May 3rd and you get arrested again, you will not qualify for a signature bond the next time. Do you understand?
Yes.
Your notice will be sent to you at your address, and make sure you show up. Thank you.
Next, we have position number 18, Mr. Antoine Smith. Position number 18.
22 CR 002-639F is the accusation for Mr. Antoine Smith, battery against a female in a vulnerable state from an April 29, 2022 incident. Mr. Smith, you've been advised to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Derek Howard. Ms. Roberts, any priors?
7 cycles. Last arrest was February 23rd of this year for deposit account fraud in Douglas County. That case appears to be open. There's no disposition listed. He currently appears to be on probation for CWAC offense from 2009. That is out of Fulton County. Cruelty conviction from 2009. A battery family violence conviction from 2005. And a possession of a controlled substance within 1,000 feet of schools conviction in 2000.
Okay.
This is my case, Your Honor.
Yes, and Mr. Walker, is this a family violence matter as well?
I believe it's possible. We need to speak with the victim to confirm a few things, but that is my belief, Your Honor. But I understand where you're going. Thank you. I also want to add that he has a 2009 conviction for a charge I will not sound. I'm sure you can read in between the lines. The state is asking for a $4,000 surety bond. Stay away from the incident location, 955 Central Avenue, and no further contact with the victim. Her name is Latoya Kilpatrick.
All right. Mr. Howard?
Yes, Judge. Mr. Smith is 46 years old. He has been a resident of Georgia for more than 15 years. His sister, his brothers, and his mother still live here in the metro Atlanta area. He does work at Spun Divots. He's been on that job for a year and a half as a cook and a dishwasher and other duties that he has there. Judge, we've heard the history, but it appears certainly most of it is remote. We're aware of the charges that he's being held on, but that the underlying charge is a 2009 offense, I believe. And since that time, it appears he only has the deposit account fraud up until this charge, Judge. So he'd like the court to consider him for a signature bond, Judge, on this. We'd ask in the alternative $1,000 good because he will have to handle other matters, but we'd ask the court to consider that.
All right. Thank you. On this particular bond, it's going to be set at $3,500. It's going to be a surety bond. No further contact with Latoya Kilpatrick, and to stay away from the incident location. No illegal drugs, no weapons, and no firearms. Thank you.
All right.
Next court date is May 12th.
Move back. Just talk.
You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of the case, your statements can and will be used against you, and make it very difficult for your attorney to represent you.
Mrs. Smith, you got a question or something I can answer offline, great, but as it relates, if you're trying to ask about anything else, we don't need to get into that over the Zoom.
Location, that's my apartment, so I don't have nowhere else to go. That's my apartment, so I wanted it to be the other way around.
All right. Will you be able to make bond?
Most likely.
All right. Once you make bond, you will update us with your new address, and you need to stay away from the incident location. And then you will file the appropriate dispossessory action if she's still, you can return to that location if she doesn't reside there. But if she resides there, then you will have to go through the appropriate dispossessory.
She does not live there. Thank you.
Right. When you go there with a police officer, they need to verify that. So you can go back one time only with a police officer to either retrieve your belongings or verify that no one resides there but you.
Okay, thank you.
You good.
All right.
Next, we have position number 20, Mr. Joseph Waller.
Okay. Mr. Waller, your case is 22 CR 002645G. the Solicitor General's office has drafted 2 accusations against you for battery, domestic violence, and cruelty in the 3rd degree from a January 2021 incident. You have the right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Derek Howard. Ms. Roberts?
3 cycles, 1 out of Texas. I'm sorry, 5 cycles. 1 out of Texas, 4 out of California, with the last arrest being from 2018 out of Texas for possession of marijuana. That was a conviction out of Texas. And nothing further to add.
All right.
Yes, sure.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, the state is asking for a $3,000 surety on the battery, family violence, a $1,000 surety on the cruelty to children in the 3rd degree. The state is concerned for the victim, Ms. Anya Hernandez. Of course, we are asking for a no further contact provision and a stay away from the incident location. 4869. I will have to spell the street name. I believe it's.
Is that Ambassador Daryl?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. That's it. So stay away from that location, which is located in College Park, Georgia. As the court is aware, there was an 11-year-old juvenile involved, as well as the victim's infant child, who she was carrying or holding at the time of the incident. So we are asking for no contact with the children as well, as they very easily could have got hurt in this incident.
All right. Mr. Howard?
Yes, Judge. Mr. Waller's 51 years old. He has lived in Georgia for the past 7 years. He is self-employed. He does home remodeling that allows him to be able to provide for both himself and his family, which is Ms. Hernandez, and their 2 children that they have together are part of that. He also honorably served in the U.S. Armed Forces in the Marines. He served in Persian Gulf, Desert Storm, and after 12 years of service was honorably discharged. Judge, I will note that this allegation is from January 27th of 2021, which means this is more than a year old. They have lived together since that time. He was not aware there was a warrant, and in fact, she was with him when he was arrested on this. And so I think the issue of whether the state's concerned about the contact or if there's some danger to her, I think that certainly has been demonstrated that there haven't been any charges or any issues since that time, and they've been living together as a family since January, of 2021. So we would ask the court to give weight to that. I would inquire if the state has actually spoken with her. I see a number here in the report that I haven't been able to call, but I would ask if they have not spoken with her, if we could reach out to Ms. Hernandez to find out what her desires would be, Judge. They have a 7-year-old and a 1-year-old child that obviously he is an integral part of raising those children and providing for them. So we would ask the court to give us some leeway as it relates to contact. We would ask for no further violent contact, given that this was more than a year ago, and the other history that we've heard, I don't believe points to a history of violence. I heard a drug arrest and something along those lines. So we would ask that he be considered, Judge, for a signature bond, and that the court allow no further violent contact in this case.
Your Honor, if I could just briefly respond. The defendant was well aware that police were called on the day in question. I understand it was a year ago, but the law enforcement officer who took the warrant out actually called the defendant and asked him to come back to the scene, and the defendant outright refused. So that means he knew that there was a warrant out, he knew that he was wanted, and he evaded law enforcement for essentially a year. So I think that goes to speak to his overhood likelihood of returning or lack thereof. He's been on the run for the last year. So I'm sure they probably have reconciled. Again, the cycles of violence, no surprise here. But again, those are the reasons why the state is concerned. There were 2 minor children that were involved, and I think the state has concern for good cause.
Mr. Howard, did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
Judge, I would just say the fact that, police reached out to him is not the same as knowing that a warrant was taken out. He was not aware that there was a warrant. And nothing additional, Judge. Just they've been together since that time with no problems or issues. And now to disrupt the family, I think it flies in the face of the purpose of the no further contact, which obviously, if it had been last week, we would understand. But it's been a year where they've been living together with no problem. We'd ask the court to take that into account.
The incident occurred on January 27, 2021, on or about 11:50 a.m. And the warrant was issued the next day at 6:35 a.m. And I have the benefit of the incident report as well, outlining what exactly the police officer claims happened at the time that they reported to the incident. Based on all this information and the fact that I really don't have any information from Ms. Hernandez at the present time, bond is going to be set at $2,500 on the battery charge and $500 on the cruelty in the third degree. Both are going to be a signature bond through, so it's a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services. He's to have no further contact with Ms. Hernandez, so Anya Fernandez. So if they've been living together since then, well, unfortunately, that has to cease at the present time until the state has had more opportunity to confer with Ms. Hernandez. He's to stay away from 4839 Ambassadorial Lane in Atlanta, Georgia, and no illegal drugs, no weapons, and no firearms. Once he's released on pretrial services, he is to undertake a one-day anger awareness program with pretrial, and I'll allow for third-party transfer of the children. No illegal drugs, no weapons, and no firearms. So if he owns any weapons or firearms, they must be surrendered to the authorities. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Judge.
Oh, and update us with his new address within 30 days so that we can send him notice. Deputy?
Next, we have position number 22, Mr. Joad Watson.
All right, Mr. Joad Akil Watson is accused of battery domestic violence from March 24th, 2022 in case number 22 CR 002-629C. Mr. Watson, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Howard, Mr. Bartel, or is it Colin?
Yes, it'll be me, Judge.
All right, it'll be Mr. Derek Howard. And Ms. Roberts, any priors, please?
We're on 22, right?
Did you say 22?
I was asking, were we on position 22?
Oh, position 22, yes, we are.
12 cycles, 11 out of Georgia, 1 out of Florida. Last arrest, June of 2021 for burglary in the first degree and criminal trespass. He appears to be on probation for that case. That disposition date was he appears to be on probation, not for that case, but for another burglary in the first degree. Disposition date being February of 2014. It was 15 years probation.
Okay. Also
appears to be on probation for removal or attempted removal of weapon from public official. That disposition date was July of 2019, 2 years probation, 3 years confinement. And then lastly, appears to be on probation for possession of meth. Disposition dates, January of 2022, 3 years probation, and all of those probations appear to be out of Savannah, Chatham County. He had a 2014 conviction for willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer and possession of hydrocodone. A 2014 conviction for possession of tools for commission of a crime. A 2011 burglary and possession of tools for commission of a crime.
2011 for burglary in addition to the 2014 and the subsequent one?
Yes.
Okay.
A 1997 armed robbery conviction and a disorderly conduct from 96.
All right, thank you. Ms. Saleh?
Yes, Your Honor, the state is going to request a $5,000 straight bond on this charge. No contact with Donald Williams and stay away from 1281 Caroline Street, Atlanta, Georgia. The state would argue that he poses a significant risk of committing another crime while pending trial. He does have recent arrest out of Chatham County. So we would argue that he poses a risk of failing to appear for court. I'm not really sure where he's going to be living currently. So that would be the state's request at this time, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Howard?
Yes, Judge, Mr. Watson is 44 years old. He has lived in Georgia all his life. He's originally from Savannah, the Chatham County area, still has family there, but his mother and his sister actually still live here, which is where he has been most recently. He actually lives with his mother at 1281 Caroline Street. So I have an address that he lives at locally here. He works at Tom, Dick, and Hank's, which is not far from downtown. And he's been on that job for about a month and a half. And so he'd like, obviously, to keep that job. Judge, the allegations are related to a cousin, someone by marriage that's related to, and he indicates that, in fact, in this case, there was an argument, and that the cousin actually said to his mother would be a witness in this case ultimately, that you better get your son, and began to approach him aggressively. And so actually began, he was the initial aggressor in this case. And the judge, we would ask the court to consider allowing him to sign his own bond. We have an opportunity at a later time to address the merits, but I didn't hear any failure to appears. We're a transient society, judge, and he's living here now, so it's not even an issue of him having to come from Savannah. I can provide the apartment number and the address that he's living at currently for the last 3 months. He's been living with her. So we would ask the court to allow him to sign his own bond in this case. And there's no issue of contact. He doesn't need to have contact with Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams does not live at the address that he lives at with his mother, so we don't have an issue with that, judge.
All right. Bond is set at $2,000, is a surety bond. Next court date's May 12th. No further contact with Donald Williams, and he'd stay away from 1281 Caroline Street in Atlanta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, weapons, or firearms.
Judge, what type of bond was that?
Surety bond, $2,000.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also for Mr. Watson, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess we're going to go back to position number 8.
Do you have any resets to Monday, like Daryl Williams?
Which I believe everybody is accounted for on the calendar.
No, we have some holes in.
Yeah, Daryl Williams is position 23.
We have position 6, 19.
Okay, give me 1 second. Mr. Williams bonded out. I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, that's quite all right. We just wanted to get status.
Yeah.
Is Mr. Gibson, number 6?
He bonded out
released?
also.
Okay.
Yes.
So position 6 is released,
Okay.
and position 23 is released. And
Yeah.
what about 19?
19 is released also, Your Honor.
Oh, okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
I apologize.
No apology required. Have we concluded with everyone in your courtroom too?
Except for position number 8, Mr. Hamilton, I still have him here.
I
Okay.
think that was the possible plea, the Georgia Tech case.
Yes, okay.
Hamilton, this is an MH, Your Honor, all the way. Just let you know.
Understood, understood. Please go ahead and Mr. Hamilton, we are going to have a sidebar conference. This is where the attorneys would like to confer with the judge privately. So if you could please hold. Remember your right to remain silent. Anything you say during the proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you. Will the host please place them? Katrina, could you place me in?
Straight? Okay. No, I'm saying like, oh, yeah, I spoke about it. He was just a little mad that he was putting it on himself. As opposed to, he said, but she ironed it out, but she was like, oh, it was right back in there, because we knew what that's about. Exactly, I was standing right here in front of you. Yeah. He said he knew he was wrong, because he said, yeah, I put my wrong. Yeah, he knew he was wrong. He should have did what he did.
The deputy that's in courtroom 2, I need to email some paperwork. Can you either put your email in the chat or tell it to me right quick and I can write it down, please?
I'll give you my lieutenant's email address.
Okay, it'll be something that the
No.
sign.
You print right here, right?
Yeah. You can print
And I
it.
don't, I'm out of ink in my office.
No, I'm printing. Yeah.
It don't matter. All right, that's fine.
All right. Mr. David Hamilton is case number 22 CR 002-643J. Mr. Hamilton's been accused of criminal trespass at the Georgia Institute of Technology on July 13, 2021. Mr. Hamilton, I've already advised you that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of the case, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. However, if you decide to proceed with taking a plea offer today, that would be going against the advice of counsel, and the public defender's office has taken the position that they are not representing individuals in jail who do not take the time and opportunity to screen their cases before considering a plea. So in that respect, presently, you do not have counsel representing you. And if you choose to represent yourself, you are responsible for understanding how the law applies to the facts of your case, how this particular plea, if you decide to plead guilty to criminal trespass, how this particular plea can impact your personal situation, your residency status if applicable, any professional licenses that you may have, or any other open cases that you may have. That is something that you would be responsible to understand. So, given this information, do you still want to proceed with the plea offer or continue?
Yes,
okay. Now you will be given some documents. You'll have to review the documents and sign off on the questions that are being asked. And then after that, we will have a plea hearing where I have to decide whether your plea of guilty to criminal trespass is being done willingly, knowingly, and voluntarily. Now, you've also requested a return to Georgia Tech to retrieve some property. What is that about?
I actually was at Georgia Tech just to pick up my phone. He has my phone and my headphones. I don't know if he passed it to Fulton County or if he actually has it at their police station.
This was back in July of 2021. So what attempts have you made since July?
I just was actually at the school to pick up my property, but I won't go back to Georgia State because I have a trespass warrant. So I'll just have them actually probably mail it to me or something like that. I won't go back on the property.
All right, review your documents and then let us know when they're ready. Officer Norris, once he's signed off on all the pages, Mr. Walker, make sure you also send him the waiver of counsel page that he needs to sign off on.
I have it, Your Honor. I'm
Okay.
sending it over right now.
All right, and we will review the bond orders and then readdress Mr. Hamilton as soon as he sends us back the signed documents. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Your Honor.
Deputy, I just sent it over.
Okay, thank you.
Has Mr. Hamilton reviewed and signed the documents? I guess no. Mr. Walker, have you received the signed documents?
Your Honor, he's signing them right now.
Okay.
Now.
Oh, and your trusty alarm comes on right on time. Okay.
Your Honor, I believe that fills out the bingo card for this Saturday.
Yes, it does. Mr. Hopkins, you're free to go if you want. I think I just need Mr. Walker and Mr. Hamilton. So if anybody else would like to leave, they're free to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. You have a great weekend. Good to see you.
You too. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bartel.
Have a good weekend, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, guys. Be safe. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Judge Law. I also emailed you over the,
Yes, I saw
waiver.
that. I'm going to save it as a PDF and then resend it to you, okay? Or if you can send it to me as a PDF.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Wait, I have a question. Ms. Bridgewater, for position 9, what was the bond? Or Judge Law?
I had a $5,000 pretrial services bond.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, I'm sending that back over.
What did y'all have for position number 2?
Oh, you know what? I could go down the calendar. Let's do that. I'm sorry, folks.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Let's go over the calendar. Thank you. Position 1, Beasley, was a 1,500 signature bond through the jail. Further notice. Position 2, Brooks, is 500 signature bond through the jail. Position 3 was a 2,500 surety bond. Reset date May 12. Position 4, Dukes, is a $4,000 signature bond through pretrial. Position 5 is a 1,500 surety. Reset date May 12. Position 6 was released. Position 7, Green, is a 1,500 surety bond. Reset date May 12. Hamilton is pending a plea. 9, Henry, is a 5,000 signature bond through pretrial. Position 10, Jackson, is a $1,000 signature bond through the jail.
I have it as 2,000.
I had it.
Oh, 2,000.
Yeah.
2,000, excuse me. Position 11, Stacy James, is a 5,000 signature bond through pretrial. Position 12 is a $10,000 signature bond through pretrial. Position 13 is a $2,000 surety bond, reset May 12. Position 14, Longino, is a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial. 15 is a $2,000 surety bond, no driving, and reset dates May 12. Position 16, Pride's a $1,000 signature bond through the jail, I believe.
It is.
Okay, and stay away from Almada. Okay.
Exactly, until suspension has been lifted.
Yes.
Okay.
Position 17 is a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial. Position 18 is a 3,500 surety bond, reset date May 12. Position 19, Daryl Tenney.
Was released.
Released, okay. Position 20 is a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial. And was it 3,000 or 3,500, Holly?
3,000.
Okay, 2,500.
2,500 on the battery and 500 on the cruelty to children.
Okay, thank you. Position 21 is a $1,000 signature bond through the jail. Position
2,000.
Was it 2,000?
2,000, 1,000 on each charge.
Okay, I don't know why I've got it listed as 1,500 on each charge.
That was the one that we went back on because there were 2 charges. And we wanted to keep it the same as the other one.
That's right, that's right. Okay. Position 22 is a 2,000 surety bond. Reset date is May 12.
Okay.
And Williams, Daryl Williams, was released. The
Yes.
add-on position, Mark Goris, is a $2,000 surety bond. Reset date May 12.
Yes.
All right, we good?
We're good.
Okay, thank you, thank you. All right, I'll wait on the bond orders and Ms. Roberts and everybody else who's done. We have a great weekend. Thank you.
Okay, and Ms. Tamiko, did you send me your email address? I can't hear you.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll send you a copy of this.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
are you taking the plea on the individual?
Yes, we are.
Hold on one
Still need
second.
to be recorded, right?
On the second sheet, so we gotta go and get it. We gotta go and get it.
Okay, as soon as we've got the documents, we can resume recording and live stream if y'all want to do that.
Ms.
Okay,
Bridgewater, are you sending out a copy of the reconciled calendar? If so, can you CC me?
I sure will.
Thank you.
And also, I'm gonna exit right quick so I can send the paperwork over to the judge, but I'm good. You all
Okay.
go ahead. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Because unfortunately, I can't pause the live Zoom. We'll have to stop and start back over again.
Okay, you can just leave it as it is. If it's, we just need to record it, that's all.
Judge, also, can you send me that sign order for the MAG that I sent yesterday?
Yeah, I'm doing it all right now, just.
Appreciate that.
She's going to scan it back now.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
All right, Holly, you ready?
I'm ready, Judge. Oh, I didn't know you all were waiting on me. I'm sorry.
No, just you were not on mute, so I just want to make sure you didn't say anything you're not supposed to.
Thanks for looking out. Attorney Walker, you wanted me to send you a copy of the bond orders too? Is that what you were
Yes.
asking me? No problem.
Either that or your calendar notes, either one would work.
No problem. Gotcha.
All right, Mr. Walker and Holly, let me know as soon as you receive a copy of the signed documents from Mr.
Okay, let me, I have not received it, so.
Check my email.
No, I have not.
Okay.
How about you, Attorney Walker?
No, ma'am, I haven't.
Okay. Were they gonna send it to us?
My email just went off. Let me see if that's it.
Okay.
She just
Oh, that was probably me sending you.
Oh,
something.
that's your email. Okay. No, that's not it. Okay, I have it, Your Honor.
You have it? Okay.
You want me to? I'll forward it to you.
And Judge, I've also sent you the bond orders.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, everyone should have it now.
Okay. Okay, I see it. And Judge, you'll just send me this when you send back the bond orders?
Will do. I will
Okay,
do that.
great.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Okay, let's proceed. We are addressing this case that appeared on the state expedited accusation calendar for today, April 30th, 2022. State versus David E. Hamilton, case number 22 CR 002-643J. Mr. Hamilton was accused of criminal trespass on July 13th, 2021. Mr. Hamilton has been advised of his right to remain silent, and anything he says about the facts of his case, his statements can and will be used against him. He's also been advised of his right to counsel. The Public Defender's Office did represent him initially, but based upon his refusal to accept their advice and his intent to enter a plea, the Public Defender's Office has withdrawn, and Mr. Hamilton has decided to proceed self-represented, and he has been so advised of the pros and cons of representing himself. So, Mr. Hamilton, despite the negative aspects, you have still decided to represent yourself. Is that correct?
For Tom, sir?
Well, I don't know what the plea offer is, but if that's what it is, are you choosing to represent yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Please raise your right hand for purposes of the plea.
Right hand.
Your other right hand.
The other right.
Put one hand, put your left hand down.
No, the other left.
The other one.
Put that one down and put the other one up. This one, on this side.
No, the other one.
Yes, there we go.
There you go.
Which one's your right hand, Mr. Hamilton? All right, you're not willing to put your right hand up?
This is my right, this is my right, this is my left.
Mr. Hamilton, if you don't listen, I'm going to just reset this case. Raise your right hand. Good, good. You solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge.
The best of my knowledge.
All right, put your hand down now. Okay. So, Mr. Walker, what is the plea recommendation for Mr. Hamilton, who's been accused of criminal trespass?
Yes, Your Honor, the state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 2 days, credit for time served 2 days, balance suspended with the condition of staying away from all of Georgia Tech's premises.
All right. And Mr. Hamilton. So essentially it would be a time served plea and that you will be released within 24 hours if you decide to plead guilty, but you'll be required to stay away from all property that belongs to Georgia Tech. That's what the state is offering. Are these the terms to which you've agreed?
Agree.
All right. If you agree to enter a guilty plea in exchange for this recommended sentence, you will have to agree that the factual basis of the case, that the venue, the location, and that the identity of the perpetrator, that is you, are all true and correct. Do you so agree?
Agree.
All right. Mr. Hamilton, have you consumed any medication or alcoholic beverages recently?
You gotta say something.
No, I have not.
Have you understood the proceedings so far?
No, I have not. I have not.
You have not understood the proceedings?
You don't understand what's going on right now?
I understand. She's offering me a plea deal, right?
Mr. Hamilton, the deputy officers there are not your attorneys. So if you don't answer my question, then we have a problem.
What's your question?
My question was, have you understood the proceedings as they have occurred so far?
Yes, I have.
All right. And what is the stage of the proceeding that we are at?
The proceedings of this one is I'm actually being credited for time served.
Do you understand that this is an open criminal matter against you?
Yeah.
And what are the terms to which you've agreed?
To credit for time served.
What else? What else, Mr. Hamilton?
I'm getting credit for time served. David Hamilton, you're offering me credit for time served?
There's something else that's a condition to this sentence. What other condition are you required to comply?
That I will actually stay away from the campus of Georgia Tech.
All properties belonging to Georgia Tech, not just the main campus. All right. And if you decide to take this plea, you would have to give up your constitutional rights to go back to court, to have a trial before a judge or a jury, to be able to get the assistance of counsel, to present your own evidence to challenge the state's case, to confront your accuser, examine witnesses, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up all these rights?
Yes.
And do you understand that entering this plea could have an impact on any open cases you have against you?
I understand what's going on. Yeah.
Do you understand that this could impact your residency if it's applicable?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you entering this plea freely, voluntarily, and intelligently?
Yes.
How do you plead to one count of criminal trespass?
Yes.
How do you plead to one count of criminal trespass?
Can I plead no contest?
No.
Guilty. I'll plead guilty then.
Accepting a guilty plea to the charge of criminal trespass, your sentence is 12 months to serve 2 days, credit for time served 2 days, balance suspended. You are to stay away from all Georgia Tech property. And if you are any of the property, you will be arrested again. And we'll have a new case against you. Thank you. That concludes this case, deputies. Thank you so much. I will sign the documents and have them sent to you, Holly, as well as the bond orders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, enjoy your weekend.